Have you ever wondered why we keep falling in love with the wrong people, even when we know they're not good for us? Maybe it's someone who never really cared, but you still couldn't walk away. Or someone who drained your energy, yet you kept giving them more chances. It feels almost like a magnet. They're not right, but something deep inside still pulls you toward them. Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists of the 20th century, believed this wasn't just bad luck or poor judgment. He said it happens for deep psychological reasons, hidden in what he called the unconscious mind. In other words, part of us is choosing these people without us even realizing it. And here's where it gets fascinating. Jung believed that the very people who hurt us or confuse us are actually mirrors of something inside us. That's why love feels so powerful, so overwhelming, and sometimes so destructive. In this video, we'll explore Jung's ideas about love, the shadow, anima, and animus, and how our inner world secretly guides our choices in relationships, often in ways we don't expect. By the end, you'll see why you've been pulled toward the wrong people, and more importantly, how to break free from the cycle. And if love and psychology fascinate you, don't forget to subscribe, because this journey with Jung is just beginning. Let's be honest. Have you noticed how some people seem to date the same kind of partner again and again? Even if the ending is always painful? Maybe you've experienced it yourself. Different face, different name, but somehow the same story. Carl Jung would say that's not coincidence. He believed attraction isn't random. We're not just choosing freely. We're being pulled by something much deeper. Our unconscious mind. Think about it this way. If someone grew up in a home where love felt distant or conditional, what feels familiar to them? Someone who's emotionally unavailable. To the conscious mind, it looks like love. To the unconscious, it feels like home. That familiarity pulls us in, even if it's unhealthy. Jung saw relationships as the psyche's way of trying to finish old business. Imagine a person who had a critical parent. Years later, they may unconsciously seek partners who criticize them, as if their mind is saying, "This time, maybe I can fix it. Maybe I can finally earn the love I couldn't get before." But here's the trap. It rarely works. Instead of healing, they get stuck in the same painful cycle. And the more it repeats, the more it feels like fate, when really it's psychology. So when you find yourself saying, "Why does this always happen to me?" Jung would gently remind you it's not bad luck. It's your inner world guiding you toward what it knows, not necessarily what's good for you. And if this makes sense so far, hit that subscribe button, because soon we'll uncover Jung's idea of the shadow. And that's where things get even more surprising. Carl Jung had a fascinating idea called the shadow. Don't worry, it's not something scary. The shadow simply means the parts of ourselves we deny, reject, or try to hide. Maybe it's anger. Maybe it's neediness. Maybe it's a desire for control. We push it down because we think, that's not who I am. But just because we bury it doesn't mean it disappears. It stays alive in the unconscious. Now here's where it gets interesting. In relationships, that hidden part often shows up through the people we fall for. Jung called this projection. Instead of owning our shadow, we see it reflected in someone else. For example, imagine someone who prides themselves on being calm, polite, and never angry. Deep down, though, they repress their own fire. Then they meet a partner who's fiery, bold, maybe even argumentative, and they're drawn like a moth to a flame. Why? Because that partner is carrying the part of themselves they've denied. To the conscious mind, it feels like destiny. This person completes me. But Jung would say, it's not fate. It's your shadow calling out through another person. This is why so many of us fall for people who seem like the opposite of what we think we want. The attraction isn't about them. It's about us. It's about the parts of ourselves trying to come back into the light. So the next time you feel pulled towards someone who stirs up strong emotions, good or bad, pause and ask yourself, what part of me is being reflected here? And if this idea is opening your eyes, take a moment to subscribe. Because next, we'll step into one of Jung's most famous and mysterious ideas, the anima and animus. And trust me, you don't want to miss this. Carl Jung believed that inside every man lives a hidden feminine side, which he called the anima, and inside every woman lives a hidden masculine side, which he called the animus. These aren't physical traits, but inner images, deep psychological figures that influence how we see love and attraction. Think of them like inner blueprints. They shape who we notice, who we idealize, and who we call the one. Here's the catch. We don't realize these figures live inside us. Instead, we project them onto the people we meet. A man might meet a woman and think, she's perfect, everything I've ever dreamed of. But what he's really falling for is his anima image, not her true self. A woman might do the same, projecting her animus onto a man, seeing strength or wisdom that isn't really there. At first, it feels magical, like meeting a soulmate. But as time passes, reality surfaces. The projection fades and disappointment sets in. They're not who I thought they were, we say. Jung would gently remind us they never were. We were in love with our own inner image. That's why relationships can feel so intoxicating in the beginning and so confusing later. Attraction is real, but it's also colored by our anima and animus. Does this mean love is an illusion? Not at all. Jung believed these experiences push us toward growth. By recognizing when we're projecting, we can begin to see our partners more clearly, not as fantasy figures, but as real, complex human beings. And that's where deeper, healthier love begins. If this resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe, because next we'll dive into how childhood experiences shape the very people we chase after in adulthood. And you'll see just how much of your love story was written long before your first romance. Carl Jung often reminded us that love isn't born in the present moment. It's deeply tied to our past, especially our childhood. The first relationships we ever experience, the ones with our parents or caregivers, leave powerful imprints on our unconscious. These early dynamics, whether loving, critical, distant, or unpredictable, become the blueprint for how we later experience love. And here's the fascinating part. We don't consciously choose this blueprint. It's already there, quietly shaping what feels normal and familiar. For example, imagine a child growing up with a parent who is constantly critical. Deep inside, that child learns that love is something to be earned, never freely given. Years later, as an adult, they may feel an almost magnetic pull toward partners who criticize them, not because they enjoy it, but because it feels familiar. It feels like home. Jung believed we do this unconsciously, almost as if our psyche is saying, maybe this time I can win the love I never got. Maybe this time I can heal the wound. But instead of healing, we often find ourselves repeating the same painful patterns. The good news is, this isn't destiny. You're not doomed to replay the same story forever. Jung's message was hopeful. Once you bring these patterns into awareness, you can choose differently. You can rewrite the script. And if this feels like it's connecting some dots in your own life, make sure to subscribe, because next we'll explore why love can feel so magnetic, so fated, even when it leads us straight into heartbreak. Have you ever met someone and felt an instant spark, as if the universe itself brought you together? That rush, that sense of destiny, can be intoxicating. But Carl Jung would say, be careful. What feels like fate may actually be your unconscious at work. Attraction can feel magnetic because the unconscious is so powerful. It pulls us toward people who embody our shadow, our anima or animus, or the unfinished patterns from childhood. To our conscious mind, it feels like destiny. To Jung, it's a psyche demanding growth. Let's put it in a story. Imagine you meet someone at a party. The moment your eyes lock, it feels electric. You're convinced, this must be the one. But what if that spark isn't just romance? What if it's projection? Your inner world lighting up because this person reflects a hidden part of you. Jung believed that sometimes the wrong person is actually the right teacher. They awaken wounds, stir up shadows, and bring our unconscious patterns to the surface. That's why these relationships feel so unforgettable. They reveal parts of us we've ignored. Of course, this doesn't mean we should chase heartbreak on purpose. But Jung would say that every intense attraction, even to the wrong person, holds a lesson. It's the psyche's way of guiding us closer to wholeness. So next time love feels like fate, pause and ask, is this destiny, or is this my unconscious leading me to a lesson I need to learn? And if that question makes you curious, don't forget to subscribe. Because up next, we'll uncover how to finally break free from these cycles and start choosing love that heals instead of love that hurts. So if our unconscious is pulling us toward the wrong people, how do we break the cycle? Carl Jung believed the very first step is awareness. You can't change what you don't see. The moment you begin to recognize your own patterns, when you notice, oh, I'm attracted to someone who feels just like my past, you've already taken back some power. Jung's advice was simple but profound. Instead of projecting your shadow onto others, learn to integrate it. That means owning the parts of yourself you've been denying. If you're always drawn to people who are fiery and bold, maybe it's because you've buried your own fire. If you keep falling for distant partners, maybe it's pointing you toward the part of you that fears closeness. So how do we do this in practice? Start small. Journaling is a powerful tool. Write down the qualities in others that trigger you, both the ones you adore and the ones you dislike. Often, these are reflections of your own hidden traits. Therapy is another way to uncover these blind spots. Mindfulness helps you pause before reacting, giving you the space to choose differently. And shadow work, gently exploring the parts of yourself you've pushed away, can be life-changing. Here's a powerful shift. Instead of asking, why do they treat me this way? Try asking, what part of me is being reflected here? That question takes you out of victim mode and into awareness. And here's the good news. Attraction doesn't have to control you. It can simply be information, a signal, not a destiny. You can notice the pull without blindly following it. So if you're ready to start breaking your patterns, take a moment to subscribe. Because next we'll look at what healthier love actually feels like. And it may surprise you. Once we begin integrating our shadow and becoming aware of anima and animus projections, something changes. Suddenly, love is no longer about chasing the missing piece of ourselves in another person. It becomes about seeing the other person for who they really are, not who our unconscious wants them to be. This shift transforms relationships. Instead of roller coasters of intensity and disappointment, love starts to feel calmer, steadier, more grounded. Jung believed this is the fruit of individuation, the process of becoming whole within ourselves. When we're no longer looking for someone to complete us, we can finally share love in a healthier way. Healthy love doesn't mean it's boring. It means it's real. It's not just fireworks at the start. It's the warmth of a steady flame that doesn't burn you out. It's attraction mixed with trust, passion balanced with peace. And here's the encouragement Jung would want you to hear. The wrong loves were not wasted. They were part of your journey. Each one showed you a hidden part of yourself. But they don't have to be your future. When you do the inner work, you begin to choose differently, not from old wounds, but from wholeness. And that's when love becomes not just a search for completion, but a meeting of two complete souls. If that's the kind of love you long for, go ahead and subscribe. Because in the final section, we'll bring everything together and leave you with a powerful reminder from Carl Jung himself. So, why do we fall in love with the wrong people? As Carl Jung explained, it's not random. It happens because of the shadow we deny, the anima and animus we project, the childhood imprints that shaped us, and the unconscious drive pushing us toward wholeness. But here's the part we want you to really remember. You're not broken for falling for the wrong person. You're not foolish. You're human. These relationships happen because your psyche is guiding you toward growth, even if the lessons are painful. The wrong people aren't just detours. They're teachers. They show you the parts of yourself you've ignored. And once you see that, you no longer have to stay trapped in the same cycle. You can begin to choose differently. So ask yourself, what patterns have I been repeating? What part of me might be calling out through the people I'm drawn to? Reflect, write it down, talk it through, shine a light on it. That's how you start turning unconscious patterns into conscious choices. And if you found these insights eye-opening, don't forget to subscribe. Because every video here is designed to help you understand yourself and your relationships more deeply. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The same is true in love.